Learning is hard. Have you ever been studying something and felt yourself nodding off in the middle of it? When I made it to Army school, I had that experience every business day for just under a year. No cap, there's probably less days that I didn't fall asleep than there are women that like me. In basic training, we were lucky if we got about 6 hours of sleep every night, because we were regularly interrupted for a bunch of stuff from like night watch duty to people screaming in their sleep to our drill sergeants deadass just getting bored and coming up there to add some excitement to our lives. Anytime we got stuck in a classroom for an extended period of time, keeping your attention and staying awake became a very difficult challenge. Some of my more sedulous battle buddies found this product called Tiger Balm, and they would dab it under their noses to help keep themselves awake. I remember trading snacks and stuff to get my hands on some whenever we knew we had a tedious class day coming up, because I used to have a drill sergeant regularly have to politely express his disappointment with me losing the war with the same man. I got sentenced to what they call a stand of shame enough times that I wanted to get ahead of it. Fast forward to AIT, I still don't know how I graduated. Our first pair of instructors were an older lady that was as sweet as can be, and her assistant who looked kind of like a mix between Shrek and whatever comes to your mind when you hear the word Neanderthal. Dude was wicked smart, but he hated the fact that I always fell asleep in class. Like, he took it as like a personal disrespect, like I wanted to miss his insightful lectures on how resistors and transistors interacted inside a flux capacitor. But it's not my fault. Fortunately for both of us, I wasn't talented enough to fall asleep on command just to ruin his day. I genuinely just couldn't keep myself awake, no matter how much I slept or how much I was interested in the subject matter. I tried Tiger Balm, I tried getting into energy drinks, I tried making myself stand up, but literally for my whole 42-week class, like, sleep has been a big problem for me, like a big obstacle for me to overcome. Now that I'm 5 years removed from the Army, I find myself still researching stuff that fascinated me back then. The why behind a lot of the things that we had to learn and do, and the tradition and all of that kind of stuff, just, I don't know, it's alluring to me. So, anyway, for context, when you're awake but not focused on something, your brain is in this thing called the default mode network, which is basically like when you turn on a car but you just leave it in idle. During the time of it being in this mode, most of what it's doing is like sorting through what it already has, getting rid of stuff that it thinks is not necessary, and its biggest thing is like to reinforce the patterns that it already has, which is why they call it muscle memory. Like, your brain goes through and reinforces thoughts, beliefs, and habits that you have so much that your brain doesn't even think about doing it, because that's what it's doing with its free time, pretty much. When you switch from that mode to learning, the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus are actually being engaged. Now, the prefrontal cortex is responsible for your decision making. It helps you process things logically, and the hippocampus is basically like your brain's GPS, or like almost like a librarian. Like, it's like if you're looking for a specific piece of information, it'll tell you how to get there. Like, it associates with all the memories, and when you get new information, it helps sort it into where it thinks it should be stored from that short to long term. And then it has these cheerleaders called acetylcholine and then dopamine. Dopamine, most people know, is like the feel-good hormone, and that kicks in because if you're trying to take in new information but your body doesn't feel good about what you're learning, then you won't find it interesting enough to commit it to long-term memory. And then acetylcholine is basically just like there to emphasize to your brain that it needs to focus and stay sharp instead of like let your mind wander. All of this work from the brain causes a byproduct called adenosine, which is basically like lactic acid. So like when you work out, like say you go for a sprint, and then when you finish your sprint, you feel that burn in your legs. That's basically what adenosine is in your brain. Like, once you're learning so much, not even so much, but just the process of taking in information and all those different systems that get kicked on just starts to burn energy, and that energy burn results in this adenosine in your brain that's basically telling your body it needs to rest now. So when that builds up, you start feeling sleepy, and then on top of that, the brain runs on glucose and oxygen for its energy source. So a lot of people might start to feel like a craving for like sugar or something sweet, and start to yawn when they get tired, especially from learning new information, because the process of you learning is forcing it to burn through more fuel than it just was. The way that caffeine works is it blocks the adenosine receptors in the brain, so you feel less tired even though that adenosine is still piling up. Basically, it's like if you're getting a bunch of calls and texts, but then you turn off your notifications, that doesn't mean people aren't trying to contact you. You just aren't letting it come through to your specific attention. And then on top of the caffeine and energy drinks, they add like a bunch of sugar and other stuff that's just not good for you. It messes with your heart, messes with your blood pressure, and there's all kinds of stuff. Like I can go on about why energy drinks and caffeine is bad for you. What helped me get past this hump as an adult with like no drill sergeant yelling at me was learning this thing called the Pomodoro system. The Pomodoro method is basically like you have a timer set for your work time and then a timer set for your rest time. So instead of just taking like the morning to work on a project, you'll say I'm gonna break this morning up into like 4 30-minute sessions with a 5 to 10 minute break in between them. And so for me, that's just perfect because like I'm not a grind, like I'm not a sit down and just do something kind of person. That's just me. So what I do now is I'll just throw on some jazz or some video game lo-fi, set my little timers, get me some caffeine-free tea, and then just kind of lock in. In middle school, I used to really hate life, like everything about it. My mom let this abusive thief move into the crib, and I was getting bullied at school, so I ain't have anywhere safe or relaxing to go. I never really had like close friends, and my family doesn't really like me, so there was no like escape for me. So I found myself getting really into sleeping. Like, as soon as I get home from school, I take a nap, and then I was going to sleep. Like, from that nap, whenever I get up, I was going back to sleep for the night at like 8 or 9 o'clock every day. Sleep was like my only escape, and it taught me quite a bit about myself and life in general. Like, I dream about things and then wake up with just more clarity, less anxiety, and just a better overall feeling about life in general. Within the first couple of years of this new sleep schedule, I started becoming more aware of when I was asleep, because when I would be dreaming, I would see stuff and I'm like, oh, I remember that. Like, I had like reoccurring themes and scenarios that I'll find myself in. By sophomore year, I had gotten to the point where right before I would wake up, I would be fully aware that I was dreaming and able to do almost whatever I wanted, which is always bittersweet because it's like as soon as I was lucid enough to control stuff, I would be like, damn, I'm awake, and then wake myself up by accident. In junior year, I took psychology, and at one point we got to the study of the brain and we were like focused on sleep for like a month. Our teacher made us go home with a journal, like a notebook basically, and she wanted us to write down whatever we will remember from our sleep whenever we woke up, every time you woke up. So it's like, even if you take a nap or whatever, she wanted you to write down anything that you might remember, any places, people, things, whatever. Using this journal on top of my new sleep schedule, I got to the point where I was able to actually control my sleep. And at the same time, during the day when I got home from school, I was binge watching Naruto. Like, I've watched all of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden at least 7 times that I remember, on top of like rewatching just specific episodes that I like. But anyway, so I'd watch Naruto, go to sleep, and then like basically live a parallel life with the characters in the show. Like, I would have my character doing stuff that was relevant to the story. Like, I had my own relationships with the people. It was a whole thing, and it was just really an insightful and fun time for me in my introverted world. I remember by my senior year, I had found out that other people were kind of into that stuff too, and I found these groups on this app called Kick that were into this thing called Naruto RP, which is like role play. So I go in there and like have my character battle with other people's characters. And one of my highlights was that I remember beating this guy who was like known for being like impossible to beat. He was just like really overpowered, and I almost remember like that whole fight like verbatim because it just was very impactful for me. And then I also remember the girl I was talking to at the time. Like, I remember talking her ear off about how excited I was that my character won and trying to describe it to her and stuff like that. But yeah, I haven't been able to get back to that since I joined the army, because not only did they fuck up my sleep in basic training, when I got to my actual duty station for 2 years, I was working a shift schedule to where I'd some days go to sleep and I'd some days have to be at work by like 2 a.m. and then some days have to be at work at like noon. And it was not consistent, like by any means. So my body just never fully recovered to the point that even though now I don't have that same problem, I've still not been able to kind of get back to that point of relaxation and stability with my sleep. I do have like recurring things that I remember. Like, I used to have bad nightmares about drowning, not even drowning, but like being in a flood. And going into a room and the only way forward is through like a very small, like a something I'd have to crawl through, but I knew I'd be too big to fit, so either I get stuck or just something bad. I just always felt like dread about it. But researching all this stuff about sleep has also taught me that there was this thing called biphasic sleep, and I also learned this phrase called an independent rediscovery, and I feel like I kind of stumbled upon that myself, because it's like, as a species, humans used to sleep twice a day up until about the 1700s when we started making artificial light. So up until that point, all of humans used to sleep like twice. Like we would at least have your one longer sleep and then like a little nap. And there are still cultures in like European and Spanish speaking countries that still practice this. And in those places, anecdotally, like from people's reporting, I don't know if there's any way to really like calculate it, but people claim to be more spiritual, feel more love in their life, and feel more connected with people because they're able to take a break, relax. And a lot of those cultures also, they say, like they'll go to sleep at say like 8-9 o'clock themselves and then wake up at like 1-2-3 a.m. and then from that sleeping time or that waking time from like 2 to 5 in the morning or whatever, they'd be praying, they'd be connecting, be intimate with their partners, they go visit friends, and it's like a very spiritual time basically. And I can personally attest that when I was sleeping more, I felt more connected to my spirituality and connectedness in general as well, even though my reality may not have been aligned with that basically. And another thing I learned studying all this stuff is that people in cultures that are not affected by Europeans, so like I can't think of any off the top of my head. I know Ethiopia and Africa is one, but places that don't have like a lot of prominent white people or European people, I should say, in power, the people in those cultures that have schizophrenia report to have good experiences with their schizophrenia episodes. Like when they hear a person or see a person interact with them, they're usually hearing good things. Like they'll be like, hey man, you're loved, you're missed, like I want to hang out with you, you're worthy. And they said they'll have like even more neutral stuff like, hey, you forgot to take out the trash, you didn't do your chores, stuff like that. As opposed to these European cultures with schizophrenia, they're almost like, I think it was like over 90% of people with schizophrenia in a European heavy culture that experiences schizophrenia almost only has negative experiences. Like people are telling them they're going to kill them, people telling them they need to kill other people, people out to get them. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand, at least a little bit, where it's like the way that we got away from being a connected species and loving each other and spending time with our people and family literally negatively impacts almost everything about your life, as little as your sleep or as up to your mental health.